You ever meet someone in their 80s who looks, moves, and talks like they're still 50? It's not genetics, and it's not luck. It's three very specific things they do daily that almost nobody talks about. And the crazy part? Most people over 60 are doing the opposite, without even realizing it. Let me ask you something. How old do you feel? Not how old you are on paper, but in your bones, in your spirit, in how you move through the day. Because believe it or not, feeling young past 80 isn't just possible, it's often a choice. And it's a choice that starts with just a few small habits that build big momentum over time. Today, we're digging into the three most powerful habits I've seen over and over again in people who somehow defy what the calendar says. They stay active, engaged, and full of life, while others are aged, slowed down, shut in, and start disappearing from the world. And no, it's not some expensive supplement or trendy exercise program. In fact, it's probably the last thing you'd expect. Let's start with the first habit. It's the foundation for everything else. And if you're over 60, this might be the most important thing you hear all year. They move on purpose, not just walking to the mailbox, not just pacing around the grocery store. I'm talking about deliberate movement with intention, something that wakes the body up, pushes the muscles a little, and keeps the joints working like they should. Think daily walks, short stretches, light resistance training with a water bottle or resistance band. Nothing extreme, just consistent. You see, the body thrives on use. Muscles that aren't challenged shrink. Joints that don't bend stiffen. And balance that isn't tested fades faster than most people realize. But those who stay young know this. They treat their morning stretch like brushing their teeth. They take the stairs when everyone else is waiting for the elevator. They fidget, they garden, they clean their own dishes. All of that matters. I once met a woman named Eileen. She was 84 and could bend down, touch her toes, and balance on one foot longer than I could. Her secret? She had a rule. If I don't move it, I lose it. Every morning, without fail, she'd walk her small hallway back and forth, do 10 heel raises at the sink, and reach for the sky like she was greeting the sun. Took her 15 minutes, but she hadn't missed a day in nearly a decade. It's not the intensity, it's the consistency. And every single one of her friends who skipped that kind of movement, most of them were already in wheelchairs or using walkers. She wasn't lucky. She was intentional. The second habit is less physical, but just as vital. People who stay young after 80, they never stop learning. Ever notice how quickly someone seems to fade when they stop engaging with the world? It's like the lights dim, the stories repeat, the spark disappears. That's not aging. That's mental disuse. The people who stay sharp are the ones who stay curious. They read books, learn new recipes, take up hobbies they've never tried before. One man I met in his late 80s was learning Spanish, not because he needed to, but because he said it made his brain feel alive again. His words, not mine. When you stop feeding your brain, it starts cutting corners, and over time, it stops bothering to remember things, solve problems, or even dream. But when you give it something new to chew on, it lights up. You stay mentally nimble, emotionally engaged, and spiritually awake. Doesn't matter if it's crosswords, learning to use a smartphone, or trying to sketch with your grandkids. The what doesn't matter. The habit of growth does. And there's a third part to this, which might surprise you. Because it's not about doing more, it's about letting go. People who stay young don't carry emotional weight. They don't replay old grudges like broken records. They don't live in regret. And they definitely don't waste a day worrying about things they can't control. There's this calm in them, a peace, a quiet kind of wisdom that says, I've lived long enough to know that most things pass if you don't hold on too tight. Now I know what you're thinking. Easier said than done. And you're right. Forgiveness isn't easy. Letting go of the past, even harder. But every person I've met who seems to glow in their 80s has found some way to release that emotional clutter. They talk about their feeling. They journal. They pray. They laugh a lot, especially at themselves. I remember one woman who said, my secret? I outlive my grudges. And she meant it. She refused to give her energy to bitterness. And that decision showed in her posture, her smile, her ability to connect with people decades younger than her. She wasn't trying to be young. She just refused to get old in the ways that mattered most. So here's the truth. Staying young after 80 isn't magic. It's a habit. It's a mindset. It's a little movement, a little learning, and a lot of letting go. And once you start, the momentum builds. your body gets stronger, your mind stays clearer, your days feel more alive. You don't need to feel old just because the calendar says so. You've still got chapters to write, moments to savor, and people who need the version of you that still burns bright. Now let's keep going. And if there's one thing people who stay young after 80 never do, it's isolate themselves. That brings us to the next quiet habit that changes everything. They stay connected, not just socially, but emotionally, spiritually, purposefully. You see, loneliness doesn't just break the heart. It chips away at the body, too. Scientists have shown that social isolation can have the same impact on health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It raises your blood pressure, it dulls your immune system, and it slowly convinces your brain that you don't matter anymore. But those who stay vibrant, they don't let the world shrink. Even if their circle gets smaller, they keep showing up. Maybe it's Sunday calls with a friend, a weekly coffee with a neighbor, volunteering at the library, chatting with a grocery clerk, joining an online group just to share stories. It doesn't have to be a crowd. It just has to be connection. I knew a gentleman named Harold, 87 years old, lived alone since his wife passed. But every Thursday, without fail, he hosted what he called porch talks. Just him and whoever showed up from the neighborhood. No agenda, just lemonade and conversation. People young and old came because Harold had something rare, presence. He listened, he laughed, and even in silence, he made people feel welcome. That porch, that habit, kept his soul rooted. And you could see it in the way he walked. Steady, strong, like a man who still belonged to the world. Now, I know it's not always easy. Friends move, families get busy, energy runs low. But staying young means staying open. You can reach out, you can reconnect. You can make space for new people, even if it starts with a smile in line at the pharmacy or a quick chat with a mail carrier. It matters more than you think. But connection isn't just with people. It's also with purpose. That's the next habit. People who stay young past 80 still wake up with something to do. Not because they have to, but because they want to. Purpose isn't about big accomplishment. It's about small, steady meaning. Maybe it's tending to a plant, writing a letter, teaching a grandchild something you know by heart. Maybe it's helping a neighbor, fixing up a chair, or reading a book you can't wait to tell someone about. It doesn't have to be glamorous. It just has to matter to you. Without purpose, the days start to feel like copies of each other. Time stretches, motivation fades. You start to wait instead of live. But the ones who keep going strong, they've anchored themselves to a reason, something that pulls them forward, that gives their hands something to do and their heart something to lean on. I once met a retired teacher named Diane. She started writing letters to strangers, people in hospitals, care homes, even inmates. Kind words, encouragement, sometimes just stories about her garden. She didn't expect anything back. But every time she dropped a letter in the mailbox, she smiled. Because that small act meant she was still contributing, still giving, still in motion. That's the thing about purpose. It keeps your mind sharp, your spirit full, and your body more willing to follow. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it lights you up, even a little. So ask yourself what still excites you. What are you good at? What have you been meaning to try, but put off for years? The best time to start something that feeds your purpose is today. Age doesn't close doors. It just dares you to walk through new ones with a bit more courage. And speaking of courage, let's talk about the third habit. It's one most people ignore, but those who age well, they practice it every single day. They forgive. I don't mean the easy kind of forgiveness, like saying sorry when you bump into someone. I mean the hard kind, the deep, soul-level, letting go of bitterness. The kind of forgiveness that frees you, not just the other person. Because here's what no one tells you. Resentment makes you old, fast. It weighs you down, stiffens your body, pollutes your joy. The people who seem young at heart, they don't carry decades of what ifs and why did they do that. They process it. They write it down. They cry, they pray, they talk it through, and then they let it go. Not because the past didn't matter, but because the present matters more. And that release, it softens their faces. It loosens their shoulders. It lets them laugh louder, love deeper, and move through life without dragging an invisible anchor behind them. I'll never forget what one woman said to me. The older I get, the more I realize peace is more important than being right. That's a kind of wisdom you can only earn by choosing to lay the burden down and walk lighter. So if there's something that's been lingering in your heart, some regret, grudge, or grumble you've carried too long, maybe today is the day you start setting it down, just a little at a time, just enough to feel your breath deepen again. Because youth, real youth, isn't just in your skin or your steps, it's in your spirit. And that spirit gets lighter when you stop dragging yesterday into tomorrow. Sometimes the hardest part of aging isn't what's happening around you, it's what starts happening inside. That quiet voice that says, I used to be more energetic, more needed, more involved. And before you even realize it, you start pulling back. Little by little, you sit when you used to stand. You hesitate when you used to act. You doubt yourself in ways you never used to. But the ones who stay young, they challenge that voice every single day. Here's the truth most people don't say out loud. The real battle of aging isn't against time. It's against resignation. It's that quiet surrender that creeps in when routines feel dull, bodies feel slower, and the world seems to speed up without you. But the people who age well, they don't pretend that aging does exist. They just refuse to bow down to it. They adapt. I once met a man named Bill who used to hike mountains in his 60s. By 85, his knees said no more. So he bought a stationary bike, not to win races, but to keep moving forward. And every morning, he'd say the same thing as he pedaled. Still going. That was his quiet rebellion against the slow fade. Not a shout, just a steady whisper of purpose. Staying young after 80 doesn't mean being who you used to be. It means honoring who you still are and refusing to disappear. But here's something that might surprise you. A big part of that fight, it's how you talk to yourself. Your inner dialogue becomes your reality. If you start each day thinking, I'm old, I'm tired, I can't, you will start to believe it. Your body listens, your spirit slouches. But the ones who keep a spark, they speak differently. They say, let's see what I can do today. Not everything, just something. One woman I met, her name was Gloria, used to put on lipstick every single morning, even when she didn't leave the house. I asked her why. She smiled and said, because when I see myself in the mirror, I want to look like someone who's still living. That's not vanity, that's identity. And when you hold on to your identity, you hold on to your vitality. It's not about pretending you're younger. It's about acting like you still matter. Because you do, more than you realize. And here's another thing people who stay young never stop doing. Laughing. Really laughing. The kind of laugh that makes your eyes water and your stomach ache. You'd be surprised how many people over 80 still tell jokes, pull harmless pranks, or find reasons to chuckle at life's absurdities. Laughter keeps you light. It breaks the stiffness in your spirit. It brings oxygen to your body and perspective to your problems. And most importantly, it connects you to others. There's something magical about being around someone older who still has a twinkle in their eye and a joke on the tip of their tongue. It's not just endearing, it's magnetic. It draws people in. It bridges generations. And it shows that growing older doesn't mean growing bitter. Even when the body hurts, even when the world changes, even when people you loved are no longer around, choosing to laugh anyway, that's a superpower. So laugh at your mix-ups, at the new slang words you can't keep up with, at the fact that you walked into the kitchen and forgot why. Not because those things don't matter, but because you still do. And here's the thread that ties all of these habits together. People who stay young never forget that they're still writing their story. That aging doesn't mean the final chapter has begun. It means a new one is unfolding, and they're still holding the pen. You don't become irrelevant when you retire. You don't disappear when your kids grow up. You don't lose your voice when your body slows down, unless you let yourself. But the ones who refuse, the ones who walk a little slower but still show up anyway, who learn a new recipe, dance to an old song, take the time to really listen and share. They don't just age well, they live well. So if you've been feeling like your best days are behind you, like your story is winding down, I want to remind you of something. You woke up today. You still have breath in your lungs, thoughts in your mind, love in your heart, and choices in front of you. You are not done. You are still here, and there is so much left to live for. Maybe staying young isn't really about age at all. Maybe it's about how much life you're still willing to let in. Because if there's one thing the years teach us, it's that time doesn't stop for anyone. But you get to choose how you meet it. Do you meet it standing still or stepping forward? Do you meet it with resistance or with grace? The people who age beautifully don't do it with secrets. They do it with small, daily courage. The courage to move their bodies even when they're sore. The courage to learn new things even when they're unsure. The courage to let go of what weighs them down and reach for what lifts them up. Some days that looks like a morning stretch. Other days it's just choosing to put on a fresh shirt and smile at the mirror. And sometimes it's as simple as saying, I'm still here and I still matter. You see, no one reaches 80 by accident. You've lived through storms. You've adapted, rebuilt, mourned, laughed, and survived more than most people will ever understand. That alone makes you powerful. But staying young, that's not about surviving. That's about thriving right here in this chapter. It's never too late to reignite your sense of purpose. Never too late to reach out and rebuild connection. Never too late to forgive, to dance, to tell someone, I love you, or to start something brand new. Don't wait for permission. You're allowed to dream at 60. You're allowed to evolve at 70. You're allowed to begin again at 80. And if you're watching this right now, take this as your gentle reminder. You are still becoming. You're not a relic. You're a living, breathing, beautiful work in progress. And the world still needs your voice, your presence, your example. Because someone out there, whether it's a friend, a neighbor, or a grandchild, is watching you closely. They're learning how to grow older by watching how you grow older. So show them that it's possible to do it with spirit, with humor, with hope. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep showing up. And if you ever feel like giving up, like slipping quietly into the background, remember this. You've already made it through so much. You've already learned how to adapt. And you still have more light to give, more pages to write, more days to fill with the kind of small, sacred things that make life worth waking up for. So whether you're 60, 70, 80, or beyond, don't ask yourself, am I too old? Ask instead, what part of me still wants to grow? Water that part. Honor that part. Let it stretch. Let it laugh. Let it dance if it wants to. Because staying young isn't about defying age. It's about refusing to abandon yourself. And you, my friend, are far from finished.